Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting video. Today we are taking a look at just a few different things that are random. So first off, we're going to start with the update for today, which brings a cool new feature. I think it's cool. And let's just get some wheels, okay? This is a quality of life feature, I think, at least in my view. And before, when you used to try to place a wheel, it would automatically grab onto the side. Now, if you notice, the behavior now is that it will grab onto the side, but whatever orientation you have it in. So now if I swap to this one and I move it around, it's always going to stay in this orientation, the wheel. And then I can go ahead and use my keys to flip it around, go on the other side, flip it around, and again, flip it around. So what it stops it from doing is, it's hard to show if I don't have the old version right here, but it used to be when you would hover over a side, it would try to orientate the wheel the proper way, and sometimes it wasn't the way you want it to be with the certain block that you were using. But this way, you can go ahead and you can do it relatively quickly if you know your J, K, L, H keys. Is it H? No, it's not H. It's J, K, L, O, and P. Yeah, whatever. I don't even know the keys, just I know I press them and I get to the right orientation. So that is a cool new feature. It's also listed that they fixed something having to do with ships sinking. So that is a good thing. I know that ships do not really sink. Well, haven't been. So hopefully they sink now. So that is that. So what I want to do today is talk about GeoMeta in 2024. Go ahead and confirm. There should be nets. It's confirmed by a very reliable source that nets are in the game. And so far, from what I know, they have the ability to catch fish, and then there's a setting, probably it's either a composite or a on-off switch where you can release a fish. So don't know what they look like, but the idea is you can now catch fish with a net, bring them up in some way, and then drop them into a bin by telling the fish net to release the fish. So there you go. Should be cool. 3D fish falling on the floor or wherever you tend to drop them. So very cool. Dan, if you would like to know who my source is, just go ahead and email me at endoskullgaming@gmail.com. I'll be happy to give you the source. You can ban them or whatever you want to do with them. But yeah, so we are getting nets, so very exciting. Next up, let's take a look at the QA, because there's a few things that was interesting in there. I kind of want to talk about a few interesting things that really caught my ear.
So yeah, we've got this pre-recorded video. It's just playing. It's with a bunch of add-ons that we found on the workshop. Some incredible add-ons here. Okay,
so on that note, I just want to go ahead and mention that he found some incredible add-ons on the workshop. Looks like it has the food thing. I think it's a moving the boat thing, and I don't know what the other add-on is. Oh, Zyzos add-on. However, somehow he was unable to find the fishing add-on, or even remember that I did a fishing add-on with Charlizard and JSI video to give him ideas for the add-on. So I don't know. I don't know how he did it, but he was unable to find that JSI add-on. So really, I guess it's really buried in the workshop. So unfortunately, you won't hear anything about JSI fishing or anything like that in this live dev Q&A. So really sad to hear that. So anyways, you will see it in the chat. People will say JSI and Charlizard, but somehow Dan couldn't see it. It's really weird. I don't know. Whew. All right, let's move on.
I can't remember who authored it, but it's the hunger. Is it CUH's mod? I can't remember. But did we see we're at 53 of 100 hunger here? And I'm actually trying to eat this fish at the moment, but it's not on the list of edible items, so I couldn't actually eat it. It's a cool mechanic. I was playing with this mod thinking, yeah, this is actually quite nice. It's a simple mechanic, but I'm now thinking about, okay, well, I don't want to die. I need to be thinking about my character's requirements. I suppose sometimes in survival games you need to be able to sleep as well, and then there's certain injuries that you want to recover from and so on. I don't know whether this is something we are going to prioritize as a direction for Stormworks, but I do like it. I do like the ideas. And
okay, I'm not gonna let him talk forever. Because what I've learned about Deltars after listening to all the Q&As from before with Mr. in Jersey, he doesn't say what they're going to do, even if they're working on it. So, for example, during this Q&A, they are finishing up fishing nets, but when the question comes up about fishing nets, it's like, I'm not going to tell you that we're working on it, kind of thing, you know? So he does that kind of stuff. So when it comes to something that he likes, for example, space, in the old Q&As, he would talk about how much he likes space, the idea, don't know if we're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, he says that they've been working on space and they do the space DLC. So he does that a lot, where he pretends like he's not working on it, and whatever reason that is, he gives for, like, in case we change your mind or something. I don't know. But he does that kind of crap. So this one, where he's talking about food, since he says he likes it, that's usually a tell sign that he's probably working on something, and it will probably be introduced at some point. So I'm guessing that since we're doing fish as a physical item, we're probably thinking about farming in the future. If I had to guess, farming is something that they're going to be looking at. They've got the animals. They added a bunch of animals. So farming is going to be something in there. And of course, farming equals food. So why not make a very simple, food on-off switch on the game that you can do food. And remember, later on they talk about Stormworks 2, and we'll talk about Stormworks 2, not Stormworks 2. The idea is they want to keep this game alive by doing updates, even after the next game releases, I think, because the next game is not going to be Stormworks 2, and they're going to want to keep this one alive because the players love this game, and Stormworks, not Stormworks 2, is not going to be this game, if that makes any sense. So they will probably keep this game alive and add features while the other game releases, because it might be something that we actually don't want, or people don't want, or maybe it's like a totally different game that no one's going to be playing from the Stormworks community. So we don't know. But the idea of farming and food, I think that's where this is going, and he hints about it. So let's get to the next part.
So co-op building is a major feature that I really wish was in Stormworks. It's a big feature to add, so while I'm not saying that we'll never do it, it's not immediately on our to-do list. Again, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to add that into Not Stormworks 2 than it is to retrofit and rebuild the vehicle editor to work with this kind of multiplayer aspect.
All right, so here he goes again. This is something that they're already working on, not for Stormworks, I don't think, but for the next game. It will have, I'm gonna put a little bet down here. Let me give you a $20 bill. Just kidding, I don't have $20. But if I did, I'm betting that the next game will have an open building structure. I don't know what the next building game is. Could be in space. If it's like Starship Evo, you have your starting block, and then you just kind of all hover around the starting block in space, and you build together. And that's something that you can do in Starship Evo. So I'm guessing they're doing something like that with the next game, where you'll put down a starter block somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be land-based or space-based, and you'll be able to build together. But Stormworks is not going to get this feature, just because I think it would be too much of a task to try to change the building system, and the building system is really good as it is right now. So to rip out that code and redo it, I just don't see that happening, unless it's like someone's really bored at the office and that they just want to like tackle that. But I don't see that happening. But anyways, for Not Stormworks 2, it sounds like multiplayer building in one bench, or building a structure together, is for sure going to be in it. Just, you have to listen to Deltars. He gives you clues. So let's see what else is in there.
Back on fishing, and we've had several videos from 454. Prof Incognito's done several videos. Captain Cockerel's Stormworks Unlimited, and a lot of the feedback is kind of common and consistent, and then other stuff, everyone's kind of got their own ideas for how to do stuff. Obviously, fishing nets is a big one. When we released the fishing rod stuff, I think we were clear that, we don't think that fishing rod is the only type of fishing that players are asking for, and there's actually, when people ask, say, please add fishing, they actually mean commercial fishing, or they actually mean crabbing, or there's a bunch of different stuff. So we're very aware of that, and I think that there certainly is scope for, to be honest, there's still scope for a fishing DLC. I don't think we'll do it. I think what we'd probably want to do is just do some more fishing free major updates. But I think there's so much, especially with the community feedback we've had. It's really allowed us to think what the logical next steps with fishing would be. I think the positive feedback has been really useful, because we can see there is a lot of demand for more fishing and fishing mechanics and more in-depth fishing. Certainly looking at the game, the commercial fishing side, the idea of designing your own commercial fishing boat, it's the perfect framework for it as a format. So yeah, it would be great to do that. We would like to add fishing nets, and we'd like to do a bunch of other new fishing features too. Really, we're just listening to players on what they think is important. But I think fishing net is quite high on the list.
So anyways, as you can tell, he cannot say Endo Skull because he is aware that you get 7 years bad luck by saying my name. So he doesn't mention me, and apparently because I did the video with JSI and Charlizard, he won't say anything about the fishing add-on. But you can tell by some of the things he says that he did check it out. He's aware of it, and they are looking at features from the JSI fishing add-on. Also, you notice that he's pretending like they're not working on nets, that the nets are almost done, if not finished, already by the time of this video. And yeah, they're already functional. So again, Dan, if you want me to give you up my source, just email me, endoskull@gmail.com. And you don't have to say my name, just email me and I'll tell you who the the source is. All right, let's move on.
And then there's various like special logic gates that record an on-off value or a number value, and then the data from those get recorded, they get uploaded to the website, and then that gets compared to the previous uploads. And so then on our website, where we've got our task board that lists what our releases are, up at the next of each release title, we've also got this like report summary saying how many values have changed in the unit tests compared.
Okay, so what he's talking about there is they have built these vehicles, test vehicles, they're probably a boat, a submarine, whatever, and they've set it up so that they log the data from those vehicles, and supposedly that's going to help them for testing, make sure things are behaving the way they should, because they're able to check the vehicle's data from one version of the game to the next, and they should line up pretty much almost the same unless something is broken, and then they will see that in their tables something is not matching. So that's a good thing. This is related to something I want to talk about at the end of this video, which is GeoMeta doing better in 2024? So this is part of it, which we'll talk about at the end of this video.
Read the wedge update. It's a two-word question. We know what you mean. You mean the 3x1 wedges, the 5x1 wedges. I think the reason we don't have more wedges is because it's the number of blocks. I think that we don't really want to just carry on adding more and more and more blocks. We don't really want wedges that are more pointy than the 4x1. Again, I guess we can talk a little bit about Not Stormworks 2 later, but these are the kind of problems that I think are solved better by making fundamental changes to the fundamentals of the game rather than necessarily adding more blocks. I think adding more wedge blocks just means you just end up with like an insane number of wedges and components and pyramids, and you just end up like with a really hard time figuring out what the block you want is, and you can't find them. It's already like that, right? We've got 650 blocks, I think, possibly more, and we don't really. It's about trying to find a balance between the number of blocks and the utility of the blocks. Are 3x1 wedges, 5x1 wedges, and so on going to allow you to do stuff that you can't already do? I'm not convinced, but I do appreciate there are reasons to want the different wedges, and that is stuff we're interested in solving in future games. But ultimately, I think it's a smarter solution than just adding more components. I think really you just kind of want to change how the fundamentals of the building works, which is very difficult to do with Stormworks at this stage.
Okay, so this has to do with Not Stormworks 2. It's so funny I have to say Not Stormworks 2. But the next game that they are working on, it's obvious that he wants to change the building system. And when he says he wants to, that means they're already doing it, of course. So he's not going to tell us what he's doing, but they have an idea of what they are changing and how they're changing it. So if I had to guess, which I do have to guess, they're probably changing the format of building to have the ability, much like Brick Rigs and Starship Evo, to change the shape of the blocks. Now, something that he said that they couldn't do, like 5 years ago, I asked him about it when he was talking to me about Starship Evo, because Starship Evo started with the block stretching and resizing, and he said it wasn't possible in Stormworks. So that was something that they're aware of a long time ago, and so now with the new game, I think it's something that he is investigating, or they've already investigated probably, and are working on a new style of building. I don't think they're going to go the route of, like, say, main assembly with making it into a 3D, like, stretching node thing. I hope not. That made it more of a 3D application than a building game, in my opinion. So I think that is what they're doing, and that would eliminate some of the blocks, because now, you stretch your block to a 1x3, a 3x3, 2x4, whatever you want. And so I think that's what he's answering here. Will we get it in Stormworks? No, I don't think so. But he does say something interesting later on. And so let's keep going.
Are you aware of the JSI fishing add-on? Is that the one that I am playing in this video? And is that the one that Prof Incognito did a video on? If so, yes. Otherwise, no.
Really? Really? That's all I have to say right here. Really? Really? Okay, I think I've said enough. But really? That's so wrong. All right, let's keep moving.
Will you go back to revisit things such as radars or windows, like add fails windows mod? I'm not going to kind of confirm or deny anything here, but I think this is the mods are just amazing. Like, a lot of the mods that the players have created and these custom components, and just the effort that's gone into making them as well. Like I know a lot of people have discovered, I think Carrot Command was programmed from scratch. It just happens that that's just how I write a mesh texture, a mesh format. So the file wasn't exactly the same, but it was similar enough that you could use the Carrot Command 2 modding tools to start to import some of these meshes. But I think, even before we did that, some players reverse engineered the mesh files. Like, the technical energy and effort that's gone in has really been something. Would we like to support that more? I think in the future, I would hope that we do, and that there can be better support for player created mods of that nature. Obviously there's lots of different mods that can be already made. We're already looking at some in this video, but certainly that stuff would make sense.
Okay, so what's interesting about this part is he actually acknowledged they're aware of mods, which I've been after him for like 5 years to talk to me about them. But this is the first time, I think, that he actually distinguished mods from Stormworks add-ons, and he recognized that it is something that they were thinking about. Like, you have to read between the lines. It's something that he's thinking about adding as support. I'm guessing, as I've said this before, they're not going to support mods until almost the end of life of Stormworks. I'm guessing, but that's what I think they would do, because they don't want mods to interfere with updates or DLC for that case. So if they're going to do them, they're going to do them at the end of life of the game, and I'm guessing they hope that the next game will move the player base from Stormworks slowly to the newer game as they work on that game and add features. Whatever it is, I don't know if it's going to be able to please the Stormworks crowd, or if they're going to have to keep this alive as long as possible, because this game is so unique and loved. So we shall see, but the fact that they acknowledge mods was a wonderful thing, and it does mean that, they are thinking about it, and it's on their radar to add mod support. It's just a matter of when they decide to do it, which is probably later than sooner. So Yeah, there we go.
Next question, are you planning a new game? And if so, is it a Stormworks 2? Very pleased you asked this because I love clarifying. We are making Not Stormworks 2, and that's basically all we've announced. And I think the strategy here is basically just to manage players' expectations. It's really difficult to deliver on a sequel. We've obviously been really lucky with Stormworks. It has been successful, but it's also absolutely colossal. Other games just don't have as much source code as we've got. They don't have as broad a world where you can do so many things. They don't have so many mechanics, and in some ways that's like, you know, a great attribute of Stormworks. In some way it's also its own worst enemy, right? Well, we've just tried to do too much. So I think in the future what we'd like to do is a Not Stormworks 2 game. I think we want to do something that's fundamentally different, but at the same time potentially still has vehicle building mechanics and other stuff. And I think it's about doing less to a higher quality. And the risk there, though, is I think a lot of people will nod and say, yeah, that's fantastic, that's exactly what we want. We want a game that's a little bit like Stormworks, but fresh and new, and it does less, but to a higher quality. But then the reality, of course, is that we're talking about like a lot less. Like, it's taken like 9 years for us to get Stormworks where it is right now. If we want to release a new game in the next kind of couple of years, if we want to like invest 3 years in a new game and then release it, then it's only going to have a third of the content of Stormworks. And then if we're saying, well, actually we're only going to work at half, we're going to spend twice as long on each component to get it like higher quality, then that means you're only getting 1.5 years, which is, what, off the top of my head, that's a sixth of the content of Stormworks. And you think about what that means, it means that all of this stuff that you just think is fundamentally part of Stormworks is just not going to be in the new game. And that's the reality, is that there is not going to be a Stormworks 2 because it just can't be followed. It's too expansive, there's just too much we can do in the game, there's too many mechanics, there's too many systems. So it's about doing less to a higher quality, and then also doing stuff fundamentally different. As I was talking before, I think there's a limitation on block building in terms of what we can achieve with that. I think there's better ways to build vehicles. I think there's better ways to build the world. I think there's a lot of cool stuff we can do, but we need to maybe move the goalposts a little bit. So if you're hoping for a game that's going to follow up with Stormworks 2, that's going to replace Stormworks, that's not going to happen. And that if we do release a new game, it'll be alongside Stormworks, and we'll carry on supporting and we'll carry on developing Stormworks, because ultimately there's still loads that we can do with Stormworks. It's still a game we're really excited about, still really enjoy developing. But then there's also all this fundamental stuff which I've talked about earlier, where it's like, oh, that doesn't quite work in Stormworks just from a fundamental point of view. It really, we need to kind of go back to the drawing boards to make that change. And that's a new game is a great opportunity to say, hey, well, let's go back to the drawing board and let's do all this stuff in a better way. But just keep in mind that does mean letting go of like 95% of what's in Stormworks. And it's easy said than to be seen. It really is. It's not going to be Stormworks. It's going to be a different game. Yeah, that's the strategy there, and I'm very happy to discuss that. I haven't really given any specifics away. I'm super excited about the game, but I just want to manage players' expectations that content-wise, it's just going to be very, very different. Mechanics-wise, it's going to be very different. It's just going to be fundamentally different kind of vehicle builder, different kind of game experience, and potentially a lot more limited in terms of the expanse of what you can do and what you can build and where you can go. It's just fundamentally a different thing. We'll release more details when we're about to release something, and that's not now.
So I think that was a really good response on what they're working with Not Stormworks 2. I know people don't want to hear that, but I think he was honest about what they're working on. I think he's honest about what the goals are with the newer game. And I think he's honest about what they're going to be able to do by starting over from scratch. And Stormworks does have a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff is not polished, and that's been kind of a problem with Stormworks. But for the next game, it sounds like they're taking the lessons learned and optimizing everything. There's some part in this video I probably already missed it, but he said it on multiple occasions in a Q&A that he wished they hadn't done the modular engines. Not Stormworks do is not going to have modular engines. It's probably going to be really refined and polished to having a very, very good building system and probably an open world, I'm guessing. And then they're going to focus on certain aspects that they want to work, whether that's, you know, like sea stuff or air stuff or whatever it is. Maybe it's space. Maybe it's only space. I don't know. But whatever they do, it's going to be very focused, at least initially, and they're going to focus, I'm guessing, on the things that they find that people were really wanting. So the multiplayer building is something that I think a lot of people have been asking for forever for Stormworks, and I think that's going to be something that they're going to do. There's been some people, not the core community that we know and love, but there's a lot of people that come into Stormworks, and it's overwhelming with the engine stuff and the building stuff. And so I think they're going to, refine that so that the game is very friendly to new users and to let you build stuff and get it running and moving. So I think that is where the new game is going. Of course, Deltars does like to adventure into doing stuff, so there's a good chance that, some kind of updates will come for the newer game and will expand that core game as it goes. But what he's saying is initially, for sure, the game is going to be very tight in scope and not Stormworks with everything under the the whole kitchen sink is not going to be thrown into the new game. And I think he gave a good answer. And trying to manage expectations. And I hope that they kind of post this again, what he said, again and again, and keep putting it out there, even if they just put it like as a footnote. And FYI, remember, this is what the new game is currently focused on, because I think people are going to be very disappointed if the game is not Stormworks 2, even though they're telling you it's not Stormworks 2 now. I don't think people are hearing that properly. So I'm going to probably cut that part out and post it by itself, this part right here that we just listened to, because I think it's important to understand what the new game is going to be and manage expectations so that you understand what you're getting into when it comes out, that it's not going to be Stormworks. If you love Stormworks, you're going to want to keep playing Stormworks. If you're interested in what the new game turns out to be, you have to manage your expectations. Okay, let's keep going.
But we are doing our best to reduce new bugs entering, so overall the game is making progress and the number of total bugs is coming down. But yes, we are constantly implementing fixes. For some reason, it's a phenomenon. I can't tell you why, but yeah, some people like to pretend that we don't fix bugs. I don't know. It's very popular. Loads of people do it. It's bizarre.
Okay, just to speak to the bug fixing, I think they, especially in the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024, I think they have been working on bugs. No, it's not like a laundry list of other games where it's like, 50 bugs are all fixed in 1 week. But they are consistently fixing something, and maybe they skip little ones or something like that, text ones and stuff like that. I don't know. But the fact is, they are appearing to work on bugs. And there's kind of a blurry line between bugs and what you call it, like, I don't want to say unoptimized features, but there's a difference between what the engine is able to do and its limitations that keep holding the game back versus bug fixing. And there are limitations of the game, and in order to fix those things, they have to redo parts of the game, and I don't think they're going to do that. One example is my hatred of pivots. I think, and of course I've said this before 100 times, is if they change the pivots to not be physics-based or have the ability to turn the physics off of a pivot so that it simply moves left or right, does what you want to do or spins around without taking in consideration physics, then that would optimize the game when you have a lot of physics or a lot of pivots on a build. But that's a game-changing thing. They're not going to do it, and that's not really a bug. It's kind of like changing the game to make it play better, and that's not what they're doing. They're fixing bugs, and bad performance is not a bug. It's a engine optimization or feature problem, or implementation problem, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are fixing bugs. They're just not changing how the game functions, and that's what people get upset about. So I think that's why there's this mix-up between bugs and performance, I guess. I hope that helps.
Sorry about that, because it is a game that looks quite simple, and I suppose actually when you look at the minimum specs, it does require a modest machine. Obviously, time goes on though. That spec requirement has obviously come down because the game's 5 years old now. We haven't increased the minimum specs. Otherwise, there are certainly valid issues. I know that one of the common problems that is a legitimate complaint is where the game spawns two pieces of physics inside each other. That causes absolute disaster for physics performance.
Okay, so this part about the engine and the physics and the performance, something that he doesn't mention is that it is an older game and techniques for doing physics has been updated. And I don't think they've updated their physics engine, and I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. I think the next game might have an updated way of handling physics, but Stormworks itself has not, as far as I know, been changed to handle physics in a different way. And again, techniques and ways of doing things and coding and all that kind of stuff that gets updated as time goes on when they learn how to do things in a better way or a more optimized way. I think they're using the same physics engine, and you're not, you can throw a bigger, better video card and a better chip at this game, and you're not going to get that a big giant performance boost. I mean, of course, if you're on a laptop and it sucks, it's gonna suck. But I've got 4 machines in this office, and they all run Stormworks almost the exact same way, except when it comes to maybe multiplayer, then I need the beefier machine. But for the most part, running the game itself, it all runs about the same. I mean, barring the FPS based on 3D objects in the world. So when something spawns, like a ship, it is a 3D object, and it has to be rendered, all the sides and the shadows and all that stuff. And the bigger the ship, of course, that's going to impact the 3D FPS, not the physics FPS. And then the physics FPS is based on calculating the buoyancy and the pivots and the Lua code that's running and all that stuff. And that's a different issue that slows down the game, but not the 3D graphics. So it's important to know that there's 2 different things, and I don't think that Stormworks is going to get much better than it is unless they updated the physics engine, which I don't think they're going to do. And that would be for the next game. I'm guessing it's going to behave better, I assume, hope. So we'll see what happens, but I just want to make that comment there because a lot of people think throwing a better and better machine at this game is going to make it run better and better, and that's not the case. It's inherited in old physics engine, and it's going to work to its limits on the way it's coded. So there you go. All right, let's move on.
But otherwise, the performance of Stormworks, I think when you consider the complexity of the physics, it's pretty well optimized. The physics does perform well for what it is, which is very detailed, lossless physics, with a lot going on in the world and a huge world. So if you are spawning moderate-sized vehicles that fit within the workbench, and it doesn't have 100 lights in, and you're not getting the performance warnings, for example, then you should be experiencing reasonable performance.
Which is fair. It's fair what he's saying there. If you adhere to the rules of the game as they are now, you will get okay performance. And what we're doing with the sub add-on, the Convoy add-on, and I think Toastery's been working on his as well. Toastery does what he can to optimize his add-on, and I think he's made it better than the vanilla Conquest mode. And then for Char Lizard, he's working on the Convoy add-on, and we're doing our best by minimizing the Convoy ships builds. We're minimizing sub-parts, and when I mean sub-parts, I mean sub-builds, like torpedoes and depth charges, by making them spawn rather than exist in the world all at the same time, and making sure that we get rid of them. So working in the confines of the vanilla game and what it's capable of doing currently in with how it's written, and the physics engine that it's currently using. Again, time moves on. It's been 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, however long it's been, and there are different techniques for doing physics, and hopefully the next game, optimizes them more and uses different CPUs and all that other good stuff. So anyways, just want to make that note that it is fair what he's saying, but again, he's basing it on a 5-year-old game that hasn't been updated, only optimized as much as possible. So I think I covered all the things that I thought were super interesting in the Q&A. There's a lot more in there. If you want to watch it, there's the full QA on the Steam page, and there's also on my live thing. You can watch the whole thing as well. But I think I covered the ones that were interesting, and it was like, the fishing nets, the Stormworks 2, the talk about mod support, and other things that I can't remember now. But if you're watching this video, you probably know which ones I took out already. And of course, Stormworks, Not Stormworks 2, which I thought was super interesting. And again, manage your expectations with that game. If you love Stormworks, then keep loving Stormworks, because I don't think the next game is going to do that. So the final thing I want to wrap up with is GeoMeta doing better in 2024? And I would say yes. The Friday update has had Professor Incognito's video listed in there, which is a first, and I think that's a good step. They should be posting add-ons in the Friday updates to say, hey, take a look at this group, what they're doing, and that would be like the racing groups, the truck driving groups, those are discords, and of course JSI fishing, which somehow he didn't know about, never saw it. I don't know, and that's oof. That's oof. You know what I'm saying? But they should be doing that. And then for the content creators, there's been content creators that have done some interesting things. Some people that are just popping up. Pterosaur does a lot of videos, and he's amazing. They should be highlighting those folks. They're never going to highlight me because my name is a bad word, but they should be highlighting the other people, and that's what my channel's been about the whole time, is highlighting the community. So hopefully that's what's happening. I think it's starting to happen, and if it's because I've been a pain in the ass, I hope that's why they've been doing it. I don't know, but I'd like to take a little bit of credit of hopefully, getting them to interact with the community more. Maybe not. Maybe I have nothing to do with it, but I'd like to think so, because I've put a lot of effort into trying to promote the community and the folks, and even though I'm the bad guy, I hope that it's done some good, but who knows? I don't know, but I'd like to think that. So anyways, yeah, I think they're doing better in 2024. This Q&A was good. I think that he was honest about Stormworks 2, Not Stormworks 2, and I think that was good. I hope that they post that on their Friday update, and I hope that in the Friday updates they keep highlighting community members. So far, so good. I think they're doing better on the testing. Hopefully, we'll find out when they release the next update. If anything is, obviously broken that should not be broken, then we know nothing's changed. But if it's, relatively smooth when they do an update, and maybe they find a bug or two that wasn't easy to find or wasn't obvious, that we know that they're working harder on it. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video. It's just something that I wanted to get out the door. I know I don't do videos so much anymore about Stormworks as far as like building and stuff. The motivation has been not strong with the Force, and so hopefully I can get back to that. I'll be changing up the setup for recording on Sundays, and then the top fives will be recorded on Sunday, and then I can do some other videos and maybe revisit some other builds that I never finished, like the aircraft carrier and the destroyer and the Space 1999 thing and other things, of course. And also, get ready for the workshop awards, in which it's going to be a pain in the butt, but I have to make a video for each game. So I have to make a special video for Brick Rigs to let them know about the award show, because if I don't make it specifically for Brick Rigs, or I don't make it specifically for Trailmakers, when I post a video in their Discord, they'll delete it because, oh, this is not about Trailmakers. Oh, this is not about Brick Rigs. So I have to make like 5 different videos. But the idea is, for the award show, the workshop awards, we will be allowing you guys, this community, whoever's watching these videos and whoever watches the videos that I, make for the award show, that you can come to the Discord and submit builds from any game that you build in. So even though I'm focusing on Brick Rigs, Trailmakers, Gearblocks, and Stormworks, you are going to be welcome to submit builds from Simple Planes 2 or whatever. I don't know, Starship Evo, I guess, what's that? Space Engineers, whatever game you want that allows you to build something and upload it to a workshop and share it with people, you can submit your builds into the Discord, or you will be. It's not set up yet. And hopefully it will make an interesting award show where we'll get all these different types of builds and amazing builders from all these different games. And it will be just a cool show. It might not be as long. It's not going to be 3 hours long, hopefully, because I don't think I have enough energy for making it this year 3 hours long. But it will be, community driven, I hope. So we'll see what happens. It may be a complete failure, and I'm okay with that. But it's really up to you guys to make it a success by submitting the builds and participating. So we shall see what happens. It will be interesting. So anyways, I'm Endo. This has been another marvelous video, I think. And I hope you enjoyed it. And feel free to hit like or dislike if you didn't like the video. It lets me know what you think of the video. And supposedly it helps the channel. I don't know if it really does. But go ahead, hit like, hit dislike. It's completely free, as is leaving mean comments or happy comments, whatever you like to do. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.